Well, hello there, this is the Big Bear StarCraft 2, and I'm here to cast a game for you. If you listen to me and you like my casts, all you have to do is subscribe, and I'll cast some more games. That was my attempt at rapping, and I think that is maybe proof that white men cannot in fact rap. Eminem really needs to take a back seat, because apparently I just did prove it. White men cannot rap, because if I cannot rap, who can? In other words, for those of you who do not in fact know, this is the lovable, huggable, slightly maniacal, but simply sadistical Big Bear StarCraft 2, bringing you guys a there's no Z. There is just a P, and there is definitely a T. It depends. If you want to TP someone, the T would definitely be coming first. I am not entirely sure, and so I will drop another verse. But there is lag here, and I need to restart. This is kind of sad, and it makes my heart jar. Well, hello, this is Big Bear StarCraft 2, and I'm here to cast a game for you. The least you can do is simply subscribe, and if you don't, I'll have to punch you in the eye, but I'm lying, because I wouldn't be trying to cast if I didn't want you guys to be my fans. That was actually made up right on the spot. I'm going to start casting before I make the dot, make a mark, I don't know, but I definitely won't be creating a spark. Oh, that is Big Bear StarCraft 2, actually freestyle, in case you guys were in fact wondering. So why don't you sit back and enjoy it for a while. Wow, there's more freestyle, but enough of that. I am actually done with that. I think I am the proof that white men cannot in fact rap. So I will stick with my normal opening and say that this is the lovable, huggable, slightly maniacal, and simply sadistical Big Bear StarCraft 2, and I am in fact casting a game for you. If you guys want to know, I have another cute little rhyme, and if you want to hear it say nothing, I actually did not hear anything, so I will be telling you guys my next rhyme. It's, if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is hit F5, and if you are curious, that is in fact all you have to do. All you have to do is hit F5, and you can show an immense amount of support for me by risking arthritis in your pointer finger by smashing that key. You can smash it, you can lightly touch it, you can push it like you would push any other button, but as long as that button is pushed, your computer does register it. That is all I really need. Now I am done with that, and I will actually get to the cast. We do have a TVP, and this is going to be a pretty good game. In case you guys were wondering, I think this little M Todd here, this little M thing is kind of taking over the nation. It seems like Lawlush is in this clan now. A lot of really good players that I've actually never heard of before are in it, but the more and more I'm casting them, for example, this Todd guy, they're good. They're really good. Like, they are a huge competition. And you're going to see here, I mean, like, you'll just see in this game alone that he is very good competition. I have not actually seen this game before because I do not watch the games I cast before I do in fact cast them, and people have asked me, how do you get such good games? And you know, I just kind of use sc2rep.com, I find a game that is on the longer side, and then I cast it and hope that it is good. Now, inuh, I've casted a couple of his games and I kind of like him. He seems like that guy who doesn't have an extremely high amount of self-esteem, but he is an extremely good player nonetheless. Like, this guy is a very, very surprising person to play against, because I mean, I've never really heard of him, but he again is one of those rising stars that is really going to, I think, go pretty far in the StarCraft 2 world. There is some lag, but I don't. And I mean, he seems like one of those guys who's going to go really far in this game, and I really am actually excited to see future casts by him. And I mean, you know, since I am a newer caster, I just feel like it is appropriate to cast the newer players and let big shots get big shot camera time. I mean, yeah, you guys do want to see games by top level players, but this is top level play. It is just simply people who you have not heard before, and I really like inuh's playstyle. I mean, he did do pretty good against the Zerg players. One of the few Terrans I have seen who opts for a Marine Marauder mix against the Terran player, as opposed to that normal Marine tank line that most Terran players do in fact get. And even in TVT, I've been seeing more and more of the Terran tank line. In beta, it was either a Marine tank line, a Terran tank line, obviously a Terran tank line, but I guess that kind of makes sense. You would either see that Terran tank line, I'm just going to say that because it does in fact make sense, that Terran tank line that you normally do in see, and I mean, you kind of see that in TVT more and more, which kind of slows it down, but TVT is still epic, nonetheless, because it is simply comes down to the positioning, and you would think that's a game with a lot of siege tanks does in fact get slow, but they do use their Marines to a highly aggressive amount, just because a Marine can be very mobile, whereas the tank is not mobile at all, and so you can use the Marines as aggression and use the tanks as, you know, kind of that deployable background. So I've seen a lot of Terran players in fact favor that, even in Protoss, and that is just simply because you can say, you know what, I am done with your force field shenanigans. I will in fact not deal with them, and I think that inuh is going to be going for some sort of very, very early pressure, and this early pressure really needs to do damage because he has no command center on the way, and he doesn't really look like he is kind of gearing up for any sort of expansion. He is getting a concussive shell along with the combat shield, so he's really going to be deciding to push out soon, and I really like this playstyle by inuh because he just kind of wants to put early aggression on the Protoss player, knowing that Protoss players are in fact favoring that early expansion, but I mean, he really needs to make something happen pretty soon before this robotics bay gets up, before the robotics support bay gets up, and while I am saying that, he decides, you know what, I am going to all in, and here comes the all in, and I really like all ins from the Terran players just because it is so ridiculously strong. He has, what is this, like 7 Marines and a single Marauder, along with 2 more Marines following back and another Marauder, and a lot of SCVs with more Marines and Marauders. It's actually a very, 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 very strong push. I do not know what the Terran or the Protoss player will do. He might actually just opt to wall off this ramp with force fields until he gets some sort of army out, because this army will get absolutely crushed. There's 1 force field, there's 2, but he does not actually block off all of the units, so he's going to pull back all of his SCVs. He wants to keep as much of his SCVs alive as possible, but here comes the final push. He's going to push in, and is he going to get through there? No, there's a refresh on that force field, but this force field is going to go down, and here comes the flood of the Terran units. He's actually going to go back into his main base, but all of these units are being pulled off, so it is in fact a all-in. So this was a very smart choice by Todd, because even if he does lose this Nexus, he will not be too far ahead because of all the mining time lost by all of the SCVs that are totally gone out of his base, and there are more units flooding into the back of the Terran player's base with reinforcements just simply being by the mules, and all of these probes or SCVs are actually going to go back, so he's instead opting for some sort of regain. I think he is going to regain, but when you have an income of 260 to an income of 800, it is very, very, very hard to catch back up. But if we go to the unit tab, you can see 21 SCVs even to 38 probes, so there is still an immense lead in Todd's favor, but Todd is completely contained inside of his base, and he will be for a while. He is heavily supply blocked, and he will be for a while, and you can see that there are also 2 bunkers going up outside of his base, so there's really nothing that he can do to stop this. I would guess, if I were to say it, I would say he's going to be in this base for another 2 minutes and 55 seconds. Not 3 minutes, but 2 minutes and 55 seconds. It is 9 minutes and 20 seconds now, so we shall see if he does in fact push out in 2 minutes and 55 seconds. You ask me how I know that. Well, the robotic support bay is almost done. It takes 70 seconds to get a Colossus out, so that is 1 minute right there, and he's going to probably get 2 Colossus out and then push out, and that is my guess. We shall see if that is in fact what he does, or he might gear up for an even earlier push out. We shall see. I'm kind of guessing that it's going to be a little bit later than earlier, because he is going to be a little bit fearful after an all-in for some sort of another all-in. And now if I was inuh, this is kind of a awkward spot to be in as inuh, because you did push for an all-in, and it did a little bit of damage, but not a lot of damage. And so I think that the Terran player is really just going to opt to wall off here and just SCV up like crazy. SCV up. That does sound awkward. I think I remember talking to that about someone. Oh, and as a side note of talking, there actually was someone who I saw on Husky's channel trying to support me. His name was like Funtime or something like that, and I know that he is a fan of me, and so I want to say thank you very much, Funtime. I really do appreciate every single positive and negative feedback that I do receive from you guys, and especially when I see you guys trying to support me and, you know, kind of trying to show me love. And this Colossus is going to deter these Marines from going out, and now I think that this is what I was saying, is Todd may wait for another Colossus. And look at this, 2 minutes and 55 seconds. He's going to have to wait 30 more seconds to actually push out here, and then I will in fact be right. I believe, what was it, like 9 minutes and 20 seconds? Yeah, so he's going to wait till 12 minutes and 20 seconds, and look at that. 2 Colossus are going to come out. Do I have Gosu game sense or not? And I promise you guys on everything I hold dear that I have not watched this replay before. This is in fact the first time I have watched it, so I am being a little bit kind of like, you know, that guy who just kind of knows StarCraft 2 and knows people's fears. You know, you can kind of sense it, but with this pushback here, okay, never mind. That doesn't count. I call shenanigans. So for my go-to game sense, I'm going to say it. All you have to do to subscribe is get down low and press F5. But in all reality, you actually do not have to get anywhere. You just simply have to hit F5. That is all I am asking for. And even if you don't like me, please don't subscribe though. I don't want to be that guy who you subscribe to because you feel bad. If you don't, I legitimately just want you guys to subscribe if you do in fact enjoy my gameplay. But enough about that, because we are going to go back to the game. You can see that Todd is going to be content with retaking his expansion. And just a note, even though he did have a huge pro bleed, and as another note, the Terran player has not made a single extra SCV this entire time. He has been simply massing up the Marines and Marauders off of one base. So I'm actually gonna have to give the favor to the Protoss player. You ask me why, and I say he has 2 Colossus and 4 Sentries full of energy. Now 3, he can force field this ramp, and with no medevacs on the way, this is going to be a very, very, very dangerous place for inuh to be in. He is opting for a very, very heavy all-in. I mean, this is a late all-in. We're almost at 13 minutes and he's still all-in-ish because he has not built a single SCV in a very long time. But finally, here comes the SCVs building up. So but the truth is that the Protoss player is actually not as far ahead as you would think, because even though he has a 10 probe advantage, he actually was not able to fully mine them because this base here only holds about 22. And so that was being more than fully saturated. So it wasn't really worth it for him to have that many probes. You can see actually with all of the probes here and all the probes here, he is going to not even, like, he's pretty close to being fully saturated on both bases. But hold that thought, because here comes a push. The Colossus are in fact moving back, but I think that is just because of a slight misclick, and he wants all of the Colossus, and now he's going to push out, and all is going to come down to the force fields. We'll really see what he decides to do. There is a missile turret going up that is going to deter any sort of play. The Colossus are going in front. This might actually be a very, very, very bad decision. There is only a single Viking out on the field. He really should just be picking this up. I mean, one Viking. This is now the time to push. If there was any time to push, it would be now. He's going to desperately try to repair it, and I think that now should be the time for him to push out, but he can actually outrange these bunkers, so very, very smart play from the Protoss player, Todd. And this is what I'm saying. Who else do you see that is at a low level of play that can micro their Colossus that well? This guy obviously is a high player, so I want to figure out who this M clan is, especially if they are good enough to actually intrigue the Lalouche that is the Zerg player. If you do not in fact know him, he is a very, 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 very strong player. And Day9 actually did a recent daily about him. If you do not know who Day9 is, he is an extremely, extremely good caster. He is one of the first people who actually did make me kind of want to cast. You know, he's one of those people who was very, very in-depth game analysis about his casts. And he also is a very funny player. If you do not know who he is, just go YouTube him. He is extremely funny. And, you know, I think you'll find that you guys like him. If you like me, you'll definitely like him. So go check him out, because I am all about supporting the other casters and enriching the esports community as a whole. And, I mean, as we are talking, the Terran player is just going to be macroing up. And I guess it's not really we talking. You're sitting there listening to me talk to you. And it's kind of weird concept to think about, huh? That I am talking to you, but from the past. Because I have already made this game by the time you guys view it, actually a few hours ago, because it does in fact take so long to put on to YouTube. But while, again, I mean, I'm just waiting for this giant push to come. You can see that the battle is inevitable. The Marines are cleaning their machine guns. Marauders are cleaning their Punisher grenades. They want to go punish some Colossus, some Zealots, and some Stalkers for having their particle disruptors. And why not? Let's just make our army look ridiculously big, but then forget to bring it with us. This is going to absorb a lot of shots from the Vikings. He's going to put the hallucinated Colossus in the front of the base, and it's going to make his army look really, really big. But now he's going to know something fishy is up, because Colossus are not doing any damage to this. So he does know that there's coming, but there is a huge engagement, and you cannot really tell who is the Colossus Viking. You can actually see he's going to be picking up the wrong Vikings. There's going to be a lot of Zealots going in. The Marauders and the Marines are going to be picking up all of the units here, and these actually real Stalker Colossus stay alive. I really like this play. If you are in fact a Protoss player, you should do this. But you can see as he's going through, he's going to be taking out all of these Marauders and these Marines, and this is extremely good play by Todd. I mean, the hallucinated Colossus really did change the tide of the battle for him in the huge way of his favor. You can see that actually coming out of that game, he still does have all 4 of his Colossus alive. I think he did have 5 Colossus, but a single Viking would bring it out, and I think that Todd will in fact take this game. Here there is a scan, but it is just too little too late. If you have heard that song by JoJo, then you are definitely American, and you are definitely old school American, because that song was from a way long time ago. But while I am blabbering disturbing way. This Protoss player is going to be moving in, and he says, like hallucinations, like WTF, how are you producing that many Colossus? And I am waiting for Todd to just say, no, I am actually the Chuck Norris of Protoss. And inuh is just saying GG, probably kicking himself in the face, because that is not one of those moments where you just kind of kick yourself in the foot. That is the kick yourself in the face moment. If he had scanned